Battery. No, it's on. Okay. So the Gungji Fuku, the first half is learning. Actually, what we do forms is, beside from the techniques built in the form, you're building the mapping of your footwork, you're building body integration, you're building posturing. So all the things that we talk about is all part of muscle memory and sequential memory. So what do I mean by that? When we open up our stance or open up our hands, we have a reference point, parallel arm position, right? When we're here, there's a position. When we're here, there's a position. What are these positions? They're elbow position and direction of your movement. So directionally, every movement, depending on what you're using it for, is a direction of force. So, whether it's, when we speak of functionality, everything that we're doing is some kind of action that has forces. Just picking up, a pen and you do this, even though you might not pay attention, there's a direction of intent and force driving it. If I pick up a hammer and I strike like this, the direction of movement is an intent. So that's why sometimes they call this a hammer fist. So all of your actions, whether you're making a circle, when you go like this or you go like this, the circular movement is a direction of force, right? So you have to define that direction of force and keep it within the realm of the naturalness of your body, which is really what you're referencing. So there's no use making a circle up here or reaching out like that if it's not practical and actually not efficient. So efficiency is, if you have to use a lot of excessive strength, then you're probably overreaching. So that's why when we do these movements, what we try to do is dial in the positions that we're using. So we're using our muscles. So, if you think about, say you're using a weight or a dumbbell and you're doing a curl, what are you doing with that curl? If you're using heavy weights and you're doing it just for short reps or whatever, you're trying to build, muscle bulk. That's what generally how they train. If you're doing repetition with light weights, you're just doing the action and you're kind of just building some endurance and actually working that muscle and trying to build some strength. But, what ultimately happens when you do that? The muscle contracts and then it relaxes and it contracts and it relaxes. So you use that as a resistance type thing, and it does build strength and it does build endurance over time. But when we're building movement, we're not interested in building strength at this point. What you're trying to build is how to use your strength. So if we're pushing out like this, for instance, if we're pushing out like this, that's dynamic. You're building a sequence of events that works muscle against muscle, and you control those movements, and you can regulate how much. So you're learning to use your strength directionally. When you go like this, when you go like this, when you go like this, you're really learning to use your strength directionally. Now, you don't apply it like that. What you're doing is building the mind-body relationship, how these neurons and how the synapses in your brain are firing to create these order of movement. And as that order of movement becomes programmed in your body, it becomes much more astute. So the strength of your movement becomes concentrated as you begin to build your strength in your bridge work. Now, that's actually a direction of force. And a direction of force. So this is forward, this is backward. Now, when you use the movement, are you going to go like this and like this? No, you don't. That's just a training tool to learn to control the strength as it cycles through to the next point and then back. But when you use the movement, when the hand comes up, it's like this. My hand like this, it comes back. You react. So like when you're like this and you go like this and you go like this, those are actions that become part of your movement. The speed of movement comes from learning that you have the relaxation phase and you have the intent phase or execution. So you have to time it and contract. That's part of what fajing is, or fatking. Generating power, releasing power is from 0 to 100 in as quickly as possible. But you can't do that without some control of your body. But that's just here. We want that whole thing to happen in the body when we move. How does it happen? It's because we program the movement and the body becomes very natural. So when you throw a punch, this is the idea, but you don't strive for the position to throw your punch fast in the beginning. So you have to develop a certain amount of control of your movement. So if I were to use an analogy of driving, when you first learn to drive, you're not very good at it because you don't have, the experience or the control. And then as you build that over years and years of practice, you become a better driver. You can't go from, learning how to drive to driving at a very high speed, because that's where people end up having problems. And you certainly can't go into these, sort of what the race car drivers do, when you have to respond so quickly and have all these different things dialed in. So just like the old saying is, you have to learn to walk before you run. So while we can do a pretty fast punch, do you have control? Is it directed? You can get your arm to move really fast, but can you get your body to move fast? So that's just an example of why when you practice, do one movement at a time, and it's not going to stay like that forever. You will evolve past this stage. So Kung-Ji Kun is really defining exactly what we're doing is you find your position, you move, move, okay? So as you intensify the movement, it becomes stronger, it becomes more precise, and that's what we're trying to develop. So that, and the nuances between the movements and how your body is going to respond to these movements will change, because your body learns to change and it learns to adapt and it learns to fill in the missing pieces as your body starts to learn to express those movements. So, while we're talking about the movements, you will develop feeling in movement, and it feels right. That's part of the training and the sensitivity to that, and you'll evolve. So it becomes even emotional. It ties your move so you can feel those movements. So that's the type of development that you get just from doing something like a form. So a form has tremendous value depending on what your goals are with it, and what the potential of those movements can lead you. So forms, I think, are very important to traditionalists. For today's generation of people that like to do things quick and realize that that's all it is about learning, is to get through it and then know it and thinking you know it. With traditional arts, it's not like that. Just like classical music, anything that has long-term practice to get to a skill level that's beyond even the average is something that you have to really work at. But anything with that type of value is really training and understanding, using it as a vehicle to develop your mind, your body, and everything else that happens in between that. So you develop some analytical skill. The visualization that I talk about is imagining where the movements are going. You can track all these patterns in space because that's what you're doing. So you can imagine what's going on up in here that typically, people don't have control of. I mean, people have stuff going up in here that probably they shouldn't be, that's uncontrolled. So, that's a whole nother topic. But with this, forms are pretty amazing. It's a form of active meditation. It takes you through the course of what you're learning, and then while you're learning, it evolves, something that people don't realize, that there is this physical evolution as well as the mind evolving, learning how to develop, the refinement of these movements. And, that's something that I want to bring out for people that have been already studying for a while, or for new people, that's some of what you can expect from this. Okay, so, that's the Gongji side of it. Here we have the footwork, and it's measuring your stance. So the accuracy of the stance comes from that. So you see this, I go like this, I'm like that. That's going to a horse stance, right? Suspended stance. But when I go like this, that's what's happening when you do go into suspended stance. So even if you don't go into learning all these different drills, it's already built into your form. So if I go like this and I step and I go into horse stance, I shift, go like this, I shift, I go back, shift, step. There's footwork. We already have done that. So what is that footwork? Well, you're stepping to the side. That's a side step, okay? When I go like this and I turn, should I just simply do that? That's the mechanics, the body. When you go like this, you shift. You shouldn't lift your foot up to make your turn, because this is a sweep. So when you sweep, that's potentially the takedown. So where is that sweep? Well, if you block and you go like this, you're here. There's your sweep, right? If someone's here, there's the sweep, and then you step. All of that is footwork, okay? When we're like this, and we step like this, is footwork. Normally, if I'm here, I go like this, I turn this way, right? So I'm here, chun kill, punch. So that takes me from this stance, offset to here. But why, in that instance, I do that? Because that's the direction I'm headed in. But when we turn in Gung Ji Kun, when we're here, and then we do this, that's taking a step out. So if I'm here, if I want to move around my opponent, I have to do this. So that's why you step like that. So you're here, you move this way, you move this way. So that's a side step, because, well, you're turning the corner. Turning the corner. Turning the corner means when something comes to you directly, you move to the side and you turn back. You turn this way and turn this way. So, that's a side step. Retreating is stepping backwards, is retreating. So that's, how you should be moving. A lot of times people, if they're sparring or whatever, they do this hopping and all this. Actually, they don't have footwork other than that kind of thing. That's the kind of thing that like a boxer does. In Kung Fu, we train to learn to move our feet so that we can actually engage the feet as a technique and a strength. So, a lot of the takedowns or how to move behind your opponent or move in front of your opponent or into the stance, these are strategies in this footwork, but you have to practice it and you have to judge the distance. That's part of perceiving and perception. And can you develop perception by practicing form? That's a question probably can't be answered unless you have gone through the experience. But you do develop perception, because why? It's that old adage, you know thyself, you know thy enemy. So the part of that is when you're doing your movement and your eyes are following, you actually have a great visual experience, and also perceiving what your body is doing within that space. So you become very astute. Your body becomes so intelligent about your space that anything that enters that space, you're able to deal with it. But if you don't have that kind of a mindset, then you really can't develop that perception. So judging distance really has to do with how you feel when you make your step and you move. So in the realm of your position, if I'm going here, that's why your body form in the second form. That's why when you go like this, as learning the elbow, and go like this, it's because the body knows the position. It's very precise. And that happens part of muscle memory, proprioception. It knows exactly where your body position goes. And I use the 45-degree position and the centerline position as the reference points. And that's true of all the styles I teach. Tai Chi is like that. Mudang Yehimon is like that. So in Tai Chi, we have the four corners, right? Those are directions. 10 tigers, those are directions. Yehimon, those are directions. Why? Because the body knows this corner space relative to position. So when something comes straight at you and you go like this, your body position already knows what to expect, because all you do is have to take a hand and you turn like this and you turn like that. That's as simple as it can get. That becomes position of reflex. And the action is really overridden by not having to think about it. That's what no-mindedness, they call it the wuxing, or emptying your mind. So that emptying of mind really is where your movements become reflex. And reflex action is spontaneous. It avoids a thinking process. And the muscle memory from position is what you develop from doing your forms. And that muscle memory is what you rely on when the hand goes like this, when it goes like this, when it goes like this. Those are all, all the things that you've learned in the first part of Gungjikun. So, the Gungjikun is a very valuable form to practice and understand. It's all hidden in there, whether you can extract it out from long-term practice or you have a teacher that's guiding you through these pathways, and getting that exposure. I do a lot of the movements in front of you to capture the visuals. If you didn't see the movements and I just talked about it all the time, you wouldn't understand when I say, well, accuracy of movement, what does that mean? Is there anything to that? Can you just imagine what accuracy of movement? When we chun kyo, when we have the hand goes to that position over and over again, why is it always there? It's because it's programmed into your body. All the stuff that's required to do that, which is so complex, we probably couldn't imagine what's happening out here to do that. So that's the amazing ability of the mind, the brain, and what it has to offer as far as helping us train. That process is, scientifically supported, and it is actually how we develop and work. So it's there's no guessing game, and it's not, just this myth and idea say, well, you practice enough, you're going to get good. No, you practice enough with the right approach and a systematized way of learning and understanding these guidelines, these principles that will support everything that you do, and eventually all of that information merges together, then it starts to make sense, and your body will become so intelligent you couldn't imagine that you're even capable of doing half the things that we're even presenting here. So on that note, have a good weekend. I'll see you next Tuesday in the morning at 9:30 if you're doing Tai Chi. But we're constantly trying to feed you information that's going to excite you and get you involved. You can get it on YouTube, calvinshin.com or CCMA. It's the live stream, and everything is archived. If you like it, give us one of these. I won't go to the other side and do this, but just only give us this and and say you like it and subscribe. Okay, on that note, have a good weekend.